This is the Galaxy Tab S10 FE Plus, and I'm going to tell you why this is the only tablet you will need as a student. Let's start off with the design. Now, on the outside, the first thing you will notice when you pick this up is how ridiculously thin it is. Like, if you look in comparison to the USB-C port, this thing is thin, okay? She's a skinny diva. And that's mainly due to the size. So you'll notice the normal S10 FE is slightly thicker. However, because this is the Plus, they've obviously managed to spread the components out a little bit more and get it that razor thin edge. I would actually say that this is probably about as thin as an iPad Pro if I had to guess, because I've had an iPad Air that was slightly thicker than this. Now, considering the price of this, it is probably about iPad Air money. So this is probably its direct competitor. Design features: you get one camera on the back, which is 12 megapixels. You get a USB-C port. You do not get a headphone jack. You get dual speakers, one on the top, one on the bottom. You get, obviously, Gorilla Glass on the front, and you get an inbuilt fingerprint scanner on the side, which is interesting considering a lot of Samsung's tablets use in-display fingerprint scanners, but it really doesn't matter to me because you'll turn that on with that anyway, and it just unlocks it as it is. So it's really not that much of a downgrade. The body is made of aluminium. It does feel reasonably weighty. It doesn't feel like a cheap product by any manner of means. You can also see it's got these magnetic pins on the bottom. That's connecting to a keyboard, which I'll get onto later. But yeah, build quality, I'd give a solid a 10 to. It doesn't feel bad at all. Now we get onto the display. Now, the display, obviously, Samsung make very good displays anyway. So this is a 13.1 inch, 90 hertz panel. Now, it is LCD, it's not OLED, so that's important to consider. But the brightness of it does mean that it doesn't feel like a bad panel. Now, some LCDs, they feel quite sort of out of depth a little bit, but this one is crispy enough that you do not really notice that it's an LCD. The size as well really helps. Graphics are quite sharp. Samsung's UI is detailed enough for it to feel sophisticated, but it's not, like, it takes advantage of the screen with its bright colours. And again, this 90 hertz, it is turned off by default, which is an interesting choice. So if you get it straight out of the box, it will just run at 60. But I would recommend turning on the advanced because it just makes it feel a hell of a lot smoother. The size, it's really good size for watching content, taking notes, sort of answering emails, using it as a computer. It's a very good size. The Gorilla Glass on the front isn't the strongest. So I would have a case on it still. I definitely wouldn't go caseless. But no, the display is very, very good. I would say that it's definitely not as good as something like the S11 Ultra. But then again, this is about half of the price of that. So for the money you're getting, this is a very, very good display. Like a very, very good display. Now on to the tech specs. Now, obviously this bit is, if it's a tablet, it's not supposed to be a powerhouse, but this is pretty well equipped. It's got the Exynos 1580, which is not a bad chip actually from Samsung. It's pretty mid-range. It'll do pretty much everything, you know, a bit of like gaming. It'll do sort of scrolling through emails, taking notes, watching YouTube, multitasking. It's not a bad processor. It can come with either 8 gigs or 12 gigs of RAM. This model I have here is the 128 gig, 8 gig model, and it's fine for me. 12 gig, obviously, if you're going to be doing a lot of multitasking, a lot of sort of split screening, sort of playing YouTube whilst writing, you know, connecting to my external monitor whilst running multiple things, I would say get the 12. But honestly, for the majority of users, just get the 8. 128 gigs of storage is actually, I would say go for that because it is expandable by microSD card. So I would say don't go for the 256 unless you want the 12 gigs of RAM, because I think that comes with that by default. It also comes with an IP68 water and dust resistance rating, which is very good at this price, because obviously, even though obviously you won't be taking it in the shower, I would hope, I would still hope that, you know, it obviously still comes with a good enough water and dust resistance that you won't need to worry if it gets a little bit of water on it. Battery is 10,090 milliamp hours, which you do notice. I will say that this model doesn't quite last as long as the 11-inch model, obviously due to the size of the screen, and I've noticed it doesn't quite last as long. 10,000, it doesn't last as long as you think it will. That is the only thing. You think that this will last, if you're doing light work on it, it will last you ages, but the moment you start watching YouTube, you will probably need to charge it probably every day if you're watching a decent amount of YouTube. Obviously, we've mentioned the 90 hertz refresh rate, and obviously, a lot of it comes with Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.3. You can get a cellular version with 5G, but I would honestly say that you don't need it. I mean, unless you're really using it out and about, The cellular version is much more expensive, and I would say don't get it. I would say just connect your phone to hotspot. It is far easier than paying an extra £150 for just the ability to put a SIM in it. So the claimed battery life is 21 hours. I would say you probably don't get that with video playback. I would say it's probably a little bit less than that, but it's definitely not bad at all. So definitely not bad. 45-watt charging as well, which is a lifesaver, especially considering how big the battery is. I've noticed the fast charging on here is really quite good. With this being a Samsung tablet, you do get the S Pen included out of the box, which I wish Apple would start doing, but I don't think that's happening anytime soon. So this is why. If you're going to switch, this is why. The S Pen is no longer Bluetooth actually now, so you can't use it as a remote for the camera. However, the Bluetooth, it's not Bluetooth, but it still works really, really well as sort of an S Pen. You can write notes on it, you can sort of do anything on it really. You can control it as sort of a stylus. There's also, if you get close to the screen, there's a little sidebar, which is called Air Command, where you can click on it and there's sort of, you can circle to search, you can take a note, you can have a sidebar that pops out from the side for your most recent applications. It's really well done. You can tell One UI has obviously had the S Pen for many, many years, and stylus support is one of their things. So I would say if you're looking for good stylus support, Samsung is where it's at. I would say that you don't really get much better than this. Apple Pencil, probably, but then again, you're paying nearly £80 for the base USB-C Apple Pencil, and this came with the tablet. And the S Pen itself, it's very, very light. It's much thinner than an Apple Pencil. However, it's more like a normal pen. So sort of like the Bic, just the normal Bic pens, it's very similar to that. It does come with a silicone tip. However, be careful with that, because if you're a heavy writer like I am, that will sort of scratch off. But to be fair, even if it does scratch off, it still has that on there. It clips magnetically both to the top of the tablet like that. That's not going anywhere. And also to the back of the tablet, just below the camera, you can see there. And some cases take advantage of this or take advantage of this. It does also connect to the bottom of the tablet if you wanted to do it that way, but honestly, I would recommend just doing it at the top, or the top is strong enough that I would honestly walk around like this and trust it completely. As of the cameras, you have a 12 megapixel camera on the back and a 13 megapixel selfie camera on the front. This does have portrait mode. It's not bad. It's not bad. Okay, let's give credit where credit's due. It's not bad. However, just use your phone. Like, if you wanted to record your phone using this, you'd probably get by, but use your phone, okay? Use your phone. Why? I don't understand why people stress so much about this. Yeah, it's good if you want to scan documents, if you want to do anything else, but honestly, I would say you don't. You know, it's a good enough camera to get you by if you're in a bit of a stint, but the photos on it aren't nearly as good as something like my Pixel 9a, or sort of even a cheaper phone like an iPhone XR or anything like that. I would say that Samsung's image processing does pull it a lot. I would say that even though the camera hardware isn't good, Samsung's image processing does pick up some of the slack. So you get manageable photos, but please just use your phone. In terms of accessories, there's a couple. Obviously, you can buy replacement S Pens, you can get Samsung official cases. However, the case I have is the Smart Keyboard Folio. It's the false one, you can get a slim folio, which I'll put below on the screen, but I got the full-size one because this folio comes in two pieces. So this is the back piece. It comes with a little slot for the S Pen at the back, kickstand, which just comes out there, and it comes with the magnetic keyboard, which is how this keyboard isn't Bluetooth. So if this isn't connected to this, you can't use the keyboard. However, if you snap it on, like so, fold over, that is now essentially a laptop. Now, you can see it's got a full-size trackpad. Well, it's not a haptic trackpad. It feels very, very cheap, and so do the keys, but it's definitely going to last longer than something like Amazon keyboard. And with the size of this tablet, I would say a keyboard actually isn't a bad idea if you're going to use it for a computer. And just obviously the fact that this has the decent trackpad on it, I would say it makes it worth it in itself. It's not a cheap accessory. On Samsung's website, I believe it's about $250. On Amazon, I paid $100. So do with that information what you wish. I don't know why the difference is there. Obviously, other accessories, you can get the cases, you can get a pen, you can get replacement pen tips as well. The slim keyboard is essentially this, but without the trackpad, so it's obviously a lot slimmer. There's not a lot of weight in it, but again, it really does just depend on what you want. You can also get just a normal wireless keyboard and get wireless mice. Obviously, it's got Bluetooth, so any wireless accessory will work with it. And yeah, there's not much more to say. This tablet. My favourite part of this tablet has to be the software. Like, Samsung's One UI is some of the best software I have used in a long time. And obviously, I've got a Google now. I've used iOS. I've used sort of Lenovo software. We don't go there. But honestly, I would say that Samsung software is some of the best I've ever used. Now, it's currently using One UI version 8 based on Android 15. And I would say that obviously Android 16 is out. However, obviously, mine is updated, I do believe. Mine does need an update, I do believe. It's currently 24%. I'll put an image of getting them below, but I do believe it does get Android support up to at least 3 more years. But yeah, I would say the current Android 8 and One UI 8 based on Android 15 is very smooth. You can get widgets on your home page. You can get widgets on your lock screen. You can obviously see that it's more of an iPad layout. Obviously, you can customize your taskbar. Now, the new Samsung DeX is a bit of a controversial topic for Samsung owners. So the way you essentially activate DeX is, well, you can either swipe down from the top, so you can swipe and activate DeX, which brings it into DeX mode, which means if you open, say, OneNote down there, it becomes just a draggable window, as you can see up there. Now, the old DeX was more like a laptop format, which you can get if you do plug it into an external monitor. However, the new DeX is kind of a hybrid between a tablet and a laptop format. It's slightly more functional than a tablet, but definitely if you use with a keyboard and mouse, like using it with your hands feels interesting for sure. I will say, though, they've done a very good job of making it feel smooth. There's not a lot of lag, considering this isn't the top-end tablet. You know, they've got the S11, S11 Ultra, S10, S10 Plus, S10 Ultra. This doesn't feel slow in terms of the software. And obviously the other way you can activate software now with One UI 8 is to literally just open an application. For example, so if we exit DeX mode, you can then click on, say, I don't know, my note-taking app. You see this bar here? You can literally just swipe down, swipe down, and you're now in DeX mode. Obviously I'm doing it backwards, but it's very easy to do when you've got it facing you. I do think it's clever. You can obviously flick windows to the side to split screen them. It's not a bad software. I feel like if you're gonna call it Samsung DeX still, I don't know. Also, monitor support, I'm not fully clear on that. It is obviously only got a USB-C cable, so it would have to be a USB-C connection, or you put either at least using a USB-C hub. But I would say that the software on there is about the best you're going to get compared to sort of short of iOS, because iOS has got Stage Manager now. It's just honestly, iOS's iPad software I would say is better. But if you wanted Microsoft support, get the Samsung, because I had an iPad Air and Excel was just so strange on it. It was not a thing. Whereas here, at least it's more sort of open-ended for Microsoft support. And Samsung make a lot more tablets than Apple do. Let's be honest, at the minute they've got so many different models, it's not even funny. You can find this on Samsung's website at a discount as well, and students also get a discount on it as well. There's also available in John Lewis for about $549, I think, for just the base 13-inch. They also do the S10 FE, which is same specs, just smaller screen, slightly smaller battery. But honestly, I would say go for the S10 FE Plus. The screen size is going to make it worth it for you, especially if you're a student. For your multitasking, your emails, your notes, your dissertation, everything, you're going to want the 13-inch. And let's be honest, right? Who wants to lug around a laptop? This is so light, you don't need anything else. And I will catch you in the next one.